Okay, this is English 250, week 6, part 8 of 10. I'm usually aiming for 10, but sometimes if I put some clips from other things in there. Yeah, okay. So let's see if we can keep going with this. I don't have a ton more to say about the first paragraph, I think, that we got the basic idea here. He says, this moment of doubling commentary should no doubt have its place in a critical reading, meaning, yeah, of course that's sort of how you do things. It's got some value, but it won't tell you what the writer's intention is. Like putting the writer's words in your own words is getting you farther away from the writer, not closer to it. To recognize and respect all its classical exigencies, I'm not dealing with that today, that it's based off the Bible, the way we read books. I'll talk about that later when we get to Foucault. With this recognition and this respect, critical production would risk developing in any direction at all and to authorize saying almost anything. Meaning, like, if there are no rules about what you can say about an author, then it's just going to be total fucking chaos. And you know this because if you write an essay in school, some students come in to a literature class and they're like, the poem means whatever you want it to mean. Art means whatever you want it to mean. And then when you come to school, teachers will be like, I'm giving your paper a D. And they're like, how dare you? My opinions are just as valid as someone else's opinions. But it's actually, there are some rules. We have rules in sort of school world about how to read a book. And it means that while, yes, you can disagree about whether Shakespeare was for or against love in Romeo and Juliet, right? He has Romeo and Juliet die. So here's like is Shakespeare, does he like Hamlet or dislike Hamlet? You can write an essay saying that Shakespeare really admires Hamlet because he likes the philosopher. Or you could say Shakespeare's kind of making fun of Hamlet because he's so fucking useless. And so those are two papers you could write for me, and I would give you, like, if you do a good job on those, I can give you A's. But if you say that Hamlet is actually a message sort of warning the future about terrorists on 9/11, you get an F because that's crazy. So there are some rules. It doesn't mean whatever you want it to mean. Hamlet's not about space aliens. There are some limits to what you can say, and some people will say something and you'll be like, well, that's not a very good interpretation because you forgot about this and this and this, and you misunderstood this and this and this. So there are rules. And Derrida's point is that it's once you start realizing that a lot of commentary is just put it in your own words, are you getting any, because you're not getting any closer to the writer's intention, you're just doubling the commentary with more. You have Shakespeare's words and then you have my words about Shakespeare. You're not getting any closer, but we got to have some rules or it's going to be all chaos. So he says, I understand why the rules exist, but do they really make any sense? Okay, let's do the second paragraph. Oh my god, I'm so tired. I don't know if I can do this. Yet if reading must not be content with doubling the text, right? Because normally reading doubles the text, right? So when you read something and when you write an essay, you read Hamlet, then you write an essay about Hamlet. Well, Hamlet means something, and your essay says, here's what Hamlet means. Do you see how you just doubled the text? Because Hamlet already meant that thing, and then you wrote something that said, here's what Hamlet means, but Hamlet already meant that. You've doubled the text every time you read an essay about Hamlet. That's what scholarship consists of. And when you go to a class, the author says something, and then you say what they meant, and that's a big portion of school. And Derrida's concerned that that's not going to work. So let's see what else Derrida has to say. So he wants something else. He says that's frustrating. It's got to be more to it than that. He says, yet if a reading cannot be content with doubling the text, it cannot legitimately transgress the text towards something other than it, toward a referent, a reality that is metaphysical, historical, psychobiographical, etc., or toward a signified outside the text, whose content could have taken place outside language. That is to say, in the sense that we give here to that word, outside writing in general. That's a long, ridiculous sentence, but it's actually one of the most important in all of Derrida, so let's look at it closely. If reading must not be content with doubling the text, meaning if you want to do something other than start with words and get to more words, or say the same thing twice, he says it cannot legitimately transgress, that means cross, it cannot legitimately transgress the text towards something other than it, toward a referent. Remember that referent is what words refer to. Remember that, like, we have the word tree, and then that the signifying structure involves the word tree and then the thing tree. So the tree, the word tree, has a referent, that thing back there. So Derrida says that a text cannot transgress, meaning cross over, from words to things. I swear to God, of all the philosophers that we read, Derrida is most like the Joker in Dark Knight. I know you can't see that now. They probably seem very different to you. But when we spend some time with Derrida, I hope you will see that he's basically like the Joker in Dark Knight. Derrida is like one of the most dangerous thinkers who has ever lived. He's a complete crazy person, because once you read, it's very hard to understand, and then once you understand what he's saying, it's like, holy shit! It kind of, you're like, oh shit, this is the Joker from Dark Knight. We'll get to that in a second. So, okay, so he says, if we're not happy with just Shakespeare's Hamlet means something, and then I'm going to write an essay telling you what Shakespeare's Hamlet means. That's doubling the text. He says that an essay that you write about Hamlet cannot legitimately transgress the text towards something other than it, toward a referent, a reality that is metaphysical, historical, psychobiographical, etc., toward a signified outside the text. Okay, so Shakespeare's Hamlet has a meaning, and then you write an essay and you tell me what the meaning is. You doubled the text. That may be frustrating, because you're like, I didn't want to double the text. I want to figure out what Shakespeare meant. Okay, fine. But Derrida's point is that you can't use words to refer to anything other than more words. That's what school is. You get some words, and then you write some words about it. And you started with a book, and now you got 2 books, right? Like, Montaigne, who I mentioned earlier, has one of my favorite quotes. He says, there are more books about books than on any other subject. Like, people write books about books. How many books have been written about the Bible? Words lead to additional words. And that's not what you wanted. What you wanted was the truth. Remember Plato, who was really after the truth with a capital T? Or even Pope, who thought, that art reflected reality. Derrida is he says that you cannot transgress the text towards something other than it. And he mentions historical, psychobiographical. So the point is like, when you talk about what did Shakespeare mean, what was Shakespeare trying to do when he wrote the play? When you talk about that, you're talking about what was going on in Shakespeare's mind. And his point is that you can't use words to, your essay about Shakespeare, you're reading Shakespeare's words, and then you create more words. None of that is getting you closer to the reality. Remember, art and reality is the art and reality. None of that is getting you closer to the reality of Shakespeare's mind. Or let's say you write an essay on Hamlet, and you want to connect Hamlet to what was really going on back in the day when Shakespeare lived. You would be like, I'm explaining to you a history class is going to tell you about history. But is it? When you talk about history class, what you're usually talking about is what people wrote down in old books. So your history teacher is telling you things that people wrote down in old books, because he wasn't there, right? Like, if you want to learn about the history of Shakespeare's day, no one alive has met Shakespeare. They're just telling you what other people wrote down. So you started with some words, and then you got some more words. But did you get closer to history, or did you get closer to history books? Did you get closer to Shakespeare's mind? Because all we have of Shakespeare is what he wrote down, and that's not the same thing as his mind. I don't know what he was trying to do. All I have is what he did, which is put some words down, and then I make some more words, and that feels like it's not getting me any closer to what's going on in Shakespeare's mind. That's psychobiographical. Does it tell you anything about Shakespeare's life, reading his plays? Well, what do we know about Shakespeare's life? Almost nothing. And what we do know, guess where we got it from? Books. So when you write in Shakespeare's Hamlet has a meaning, and then that's made of words, and then you write down what it means in an essay, that's more words. Doesn't get you any closer to knowing the truth about Shakespeare's life, doesn't get you any closer to knowing the truth about what's going on in Shakespeare's mind, doesn't get you any closer to historical truth. The only thing it does is double commentary, meaning it gives you more words. You started out, you wanted to use words to get to things. You wanted to use Shakespeare's words to get to reality. The reality of history, the reality of psychology, the reality of biography, a person's life, a person's mind. But Derrida's like, I don't think these words are actually getting me closer to these things, because all words connect to is additional fucking words. Do you see what a fucking problem that is? Derrida publishes this thing, and everybody lost their goddamn minds. Because the whole point of philosophy is you're going to use words to get to reality, and Derrida, like, to find out the truth. And Derrida's like, words don't get you to the truth. Words only get you to more words. Suck a dick, dumb shits. Like, and that's Derrida. Like, that's his, and it fucked up everybody. All right, I'll see you in the next video.